Good evening, you're watching NewsX. It's 6 p.m., which means it's the Atmanirbhar mission time, where we go ahead and interact with all our entrepreneurs that are joining us on the broadcast at this point of time. It's a joint initiative between NewsX and Business World. And without much ado, let's introduce all our guests on the broadcast. It's Dr. Anurag Batra, who's the chairperson and editor-in-chief of Business World and Exchange Group, who will be joining me in just a short while. He's gone ahead and graciously curated this entire panel. Joining me also on the broadcast is Kumar Abhishek, who's the founder, CEO of ToneTag. With me, Suman Gandham, who's the founder of Finin, and Sukrit Shankar, who's the CEO of Eldra, on the broadcast as well. Rohit Garg, who's the co-founder and CEO of SmartCoin, also joins me on the broadcast. Welcome on the broadcast, gentlemen. My first question to you, Sukrit Shankar. What exactly does Eldra do? If you could just, tell our audiences, enlighten us about your work, your company, and then I come to the next question.
Of course. Thanks a lot. So I'm joining you from Silicon Valley, and our company is a challenger bank headquartered in Silicon Valley, focused on bridge banking between the US and India. And essentially, we try to provide seamless access to US financial services to Indians who have a legitimate need for a bank account or a credit card or a loan, or even an investment product in the United States. So essentially what that means is that we can open a US bank account for people from India over the mobile, just using the Indian passport. And we can give them full access to a bank account in the US with a MasterCard debit card. And soon we'll be rolling out a credit card as well as an investment platform so that people can invest in US stocks and bonds and ETFs, as well as some funds focused on different sectors. So that is a little bit about Eldra. We're a relatively young startup. We launched 3 weeks ago, and we're seeing enormous demand for access to US financial services from India.
Okay, interesting. That's okay, it. There's another finance guy, and that's Suman Gandham. So now, Suman, what exactly do you do? What does Finin do?
Good evening, everyone. So Finin is a consumer-focused savings first neobank, where we help our users to manage, save, and invest their money in a simple and smarter way. So what we do is that we partner with an existing bank, and top of their banking license and top of their architecture, we build a better bank. So what we issue a savings account, we issue a debit card, and we help our users to manage, save, and invest. We understand their user patterns, we understand their spending behavior, we understand their risk appetite, and based on that, we provide hyper-personalized banking. So we recently went live. It's been like 10 days, and we are getting a tremendous response, very positive, and we are here to grow and scale. To say that we are the first live neobank in India, and we already have like 2,800 customers, and providing the core banking features, and along with wealth management and insurance, and also getting down into smart lending, we'll call it.
Okay, all right. And let's go to Rohit Garg over here. You're the co-founder and CEO of SmartCoin. Again, something to do with finance, and how is your business different from Eldra and
Mega today
Finin?
is a fintech special, so everyone knows there is a finance company. Fintech company.
That's great. So today the focus is finance. So we're going to understand everything that is to tackle finance, and how have your businesses been burgeoning in wake of the challenges. So Rohit, go ahead.
Thank you. So we at SmartCoin, we started with a mission to enable digital credit access for the mass market. So we are talking of 300 million odd people, who are working as micro entrepreneurs, self-employed folks, running small kirana shops or their own businesses, small contractors, as well as blue-gray collared folks, people who are working as drivers, delivery boys, security guards. So I mean, basically the people who are the missing middle of India, where we have, a huge segment, but they don't get access to bank credit. So we work leveraging a lot of advanced data science and machine learning to figure how to use their alternative data to understand their credit patterns and use that to extend credit to these people in a 100% digital and hassle-free manner. So Smartcoin has grown pretty well over the last 2.5 years. We have got over 5 million users across pan-India. And I'm happy to share that, we are a complete digital company anyway from day zero, right? So from a single office in Bangalore, we have already lent money across all the states and even all the union territories. So more than 95% districts in India, we have given loans through our platform. So as far as Jammu Kashmir or Arunachal Pradesh and even Andaman Nicobar, people have taken loans and we have enabled digital credit for them. So I think we
That's
see a huge
interesting.
potential
That's
in
very
this market,
interesting.
which we are trying to serve through our machine learning and complete tech-focused models.
Okay, and last but not the least, Kumar Abhishek, founder and CEO ToneTag. So Abhishek, what exactly does ToneTag do?
You'll have to unmute yourself, Kumar Abhishek.
Yeah, so at ToneTag, we use sound waves for data transfer, and primarily, we focus to solve financial services issues. So one such example is that, in India, for example, we still have 700 million consumers who don't have a smartphone or have a smartphone, but they are digitally illiterate to operate it, right? But they can speak, right? And can they, pay to a merchant through their basic feature phone by just speaking to it, right? So we can make that possible because we use his voice to transfer payment instructions, which can be sent to the server and processed. We are already doing some very exciting cohorts with both RBI and NPCI in this direction. Apart from that, normal users like us who use smartphone, right? We help use sound and voice to improve the experience of shopping, right? So today, for example, I and you both go to a physical store and we talk to that cashier, right? But what happens because of that is that I also stand in the queue. Now, standing in a queue when you go to a physical store was built because long back. In fact, today also, if you see, when we used to pay with cash and card, we have to stand in a queue till my turn comes and then I buy and pay. But if you have a smartphone, the idea is that why should even you go to a cashier, right? Why can't anywhere in the store you just speak to your phone and an order gets placed, right? So some of those exciting experiential stuff is also what we are doing. It's been, we have a lot of global patents. It's been a few years since we are there. You can find us right now inside Amazon app. So if you open Amazon e-commerce app, you will see a near me button.
Okay.
That is our tech. Apart from India, we're also working in a few other global countries. So that's about
I think that's brilliant, very innovative. I've gone ahead and seen, and especially in times of the pandemic, I would be the last person to be resisting myself to stand in queues, resisting myself from going to the malls. But then if push comes to shove, resisting the queues, not having that physical contact, and I think ToneTag does that job for me. And is it Kumar Abhishek? Is it a launch that is primarily in India? Do we have replicas abroad as well? Or you are the only company at this point of time that has gone ahead and brought about this brainstorming session of going ahead and using your smartphones to pay, and there is no need for cashes and physical transactions anymore?
Yes, both smartphone and feature phone, right? So yes, we happen to be today. So we grew, very much in last year, 2019. So we happen to be today one of the world's largest network on voice commerce or sound-based payments globally, right? We work with a lot of global companies like Amazon, MasterCard, right? So apart from India, we are there in Middle East, and this year, unfortunately, we had a very tough year for everyone, right? Although I should not say contactless has got the due credit this year, but now we are seeing a lot of opportunities in Asia. We are inking some very close partnerships in Japan. This is now becoming a good global product as we speak.
Okay, fantastic, brilliant. And before I go to Anurag, Anurag, so introducing you over here, a fantastic panel as always. This is, we're focusing on finance companies, fintech companies primarily, need of the hour. They are going ahead and making a lot of moolah at this point of time because the demand is across the world. Go ahead. Okay, you'll have to unmute yourself, Dr. Batra.
Mute yourself.
Yes.
This is the first time I've muted myself on the show in 7 months.
Yes.
See, we at Business World are doing a fintech festival in February, so we understand that if financial inclusion needs to happen, it may not happen through a traditional bank. It may not happen through existing institutions. It may happen through technology interventions and new age financial services firms, because they have a new mindset. They have a new way of serving customers. First of all, I'd like to start by asking Suman. Suman, you're a neobank. Now, the likes of Jio want to be everything to everyone, including in the financial services space. Tell us, how will companies like yours stand on its own when they're dealing with a Facebook, a Jio, because you can expect them to be doing exactly what you're doing at a different scale. So Suman Gandham, I would love to know from you, what do you have up your sleeves that will make you sustain against competition, which is literally David versus Goliath? You'll have to unmute yourself, Suman.
So, yeah, totally, Anurag, you put it in the right way. The situation in India right now is that every startup is a fintech and every fintech is a neobank, right? So that's exactly how you work.
One, if you talk to anyone in the content space, they are an edutech company.
Yes.
If you talk to anyone in the financial space, they want to be a fintech company. And you talk to someone in the media space, they want to be an OTP, because it's a good label to have. But go on, tell us, how do you ensure that you stay ahead of the game and you pivot while competition kind of intensifies in your domain?
Yeah, like I said, right, there is a huge flux of fintech and neobanking companies coming into there. But as I said in my earlier introduction, we are the first live neobank in India, and that is giving us a bit ahead on to acquire some customers and grow and scale. We have a bit ahead on most of the competitors. And likewise, when Jio or Facebook, if you see with WhatsApp payments, WhatsApp is they have around 600 million users just around in India. And if you see the WhatsApp payments, the experience is different. It's not like Google Pay or Phone Pay where you can just whip out your phone and scan and pay. It's totally regulated. It's totally compliance and regulated focus. So which the bigger companies, they can't do. Fintech companies, which we are partnering with the bank and piggybacking on their license, we can what we can do better is that we can do things fast. We can iterate the product fast, and we can get the user feedback faster than what the hierarchy and the improvements in the corporate. We can do it faster based on the user feedback and everything, and we go for based on the users. And like you said, it's going to be David and Goliath fight, and who won in that, and that's how we want to put it. Because we understand the users, we understand the users. We don't cross sell, or we don't upsell what we want to sell, but what we understand the user patterns, we understand behavior, what they need. We provide hyper-personalized solutions, and then having like 10 product managers on one thing and see what we can. So we can iterate fast, we can build fast, we can build better than the larger corporations out there. And that's the reason if you see. Even if you see when Facebook launched, Google was there, right? Facebook launched, MySpace was there. And Facebook was faster, Facebook was quicker, Facebook was easier. The same happens with any sector and any fintech. Even if there is a Goliath, there will be a David who comes up and builds the niche product, niche feature, what the user wants, what they can build it feature, and we can always compete with them. So, and also it is not every one person takes the whole pie market. There is enough pie to share. There is enough niche segments we can focus, and we can provide a better experience better future, better understanding of user, and provide the right features.
So
And that's how we will win this war.
It's early days for you, but in terms of adoption, give us a sense of numbers and give us a sense of some trends that you see emerging in 2021.
Yeah, I think it's everything is digital, but pandemic changed the whole scenario, right? Everyone is digital right now, right? So in this scenario, what happens is like in our sector, especially the neo banking, right? If you see the account openings online, where banks are still on the paper, or where the banks are still on the paper, and fintechs are still on the paper. We account opening in our neo bank, in our Finance, you can open a savings account, which we partner with the SBM. You can open a savings account under 2 minutes and 7 clicks, which is the fastest in India. And when I talk to people, and most of the people is like, when I talk to my users, when was the last time you entered into your bank? They say like, I haven't been to the bank in last 6 months. A few people said like, I haven't been to the bank in last 1 year. And that is the need, and that is the necessity of the present situation of pandemic, where everything should go digital. So we are building the digital bank partnering with an existing bank, like Rohit said of SmartPoint. They are digital from day one. They are issuing the money and everything. That's where it is. What people were doing for lending and what people were doing for spending, everything digital. That's what we are doing for banking, everything digital. We are minimizing the effort of offline thing, and we are doing it. So that's how the need. And coming to the trends of pandemic, what I will say is like whatever we say, 90% of the Indians or the world is financial illiterate, right? We can be doctors, engineers, we can be anyone. But when coming to managing money, saving money, investing money, we still ask our friends and our family, यार किसने invest कर रहा है? मुझे भी बोल देना, मैं भी invest करता हूँ. So that is kind of situation we are. So what we are doing is that's what we want. We want to be our users' robo-advisor on not just about investing. It's about how to manage money. Instead of telling you how much you spent on food, we tell you how much you spent on Swiggy this week, so you can take a decision. You should take the Swiggy Super or not, right? Instead of telling people, shall I move my savings from one account to other account? We tell you, dude, you are carrying 10% of. Why don't you? They can put a trigger saying 10% of my salary should go to your savings account every month. We are talking about everything, but there is still no concept of emergency fund in India. Like if you take the existing pandemic, people are losing jobs and everything. They do not even have an emergency fund where they can survive for 2 months or 3 months if they lose their jobs. So what we do is that we help our users to build an emergency fund, automate. They don't have to do anything. They just have to configure a few triggers, and we can automate everything. So what we do is that we want our users to be economically stable and financially independent. That is how the name came, Finance, financial independence. So that's what we are doing. We are using AI, we are using ML, we are using data analysis to understand the users and build a better, smart neobank, the first neobank in India, where we can help our users to be economically stable and financially independent.
Okay, Suman, you sound very convincing. Clearly, if your investors heard your pitch, they'd put even more money in your company. But let me go to Sukir. Sukir, again, you're a new venture. You told us that it's been 3 weeks since you kind of, came to light. Give us a sense through numbers in terms of adoption. And as I asked Suman, what are the trends you see become bigger in 2021, which will aid the adoption of platforms like yours? You'll have to unmute yourself, Sukir.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, it's interesting, Anurag. In 2018, I launched a similar bank for the Chinese diaspora looking to bank in the US. And I'm seeing that India is now, where China was 5 years ago on many fronts. One is, obviously, there is this opportunity where the global supply chains are getting restructured. So India can really be a much bigger part of, the global economy going forward. And that's an opportunity I think the Indian government is recognizing. And they're investing in infrastructure and small businesses. The second big trend that we see is that there's been a maturing of, the class in India, which has made a lot of money in the last 20 years. Now they're in their 40s and their 50s, and their kids are going to college overseas. They're traveling overseas. They want to lead global lives, and they're very, very globally aware. And there's a sense of confidence that Indians now have globally, that it doesn't matter if I have an accent, it doesn't matter what I look like, I will feel completely at home in the US. And so there's this huge globalization, which is a mindset shift that's happening from the East to the West. And India is at the forefront of that. The third is, if whenever people spoke about luxury, they said the Chinese are driving the luxury consumption. And now we are seeing that the Indians are going to drive the luxury consumption in the next 4 to 5 years. So there are a lot of
very called the crazy rich.
Exactly. But it's percolating down. It's percolating down, where even the upper middle class is now very aware and they have a global footprint. They'll have family overseas. Increasingly, they're selling their property investment and funding the education of the kids overseas. So there's a broadening of globalization within India. And there is, this aspiration that, just because I'm living in a tier 2 town doesn't mean that I can't have a global footprint. And so there's this strong broadening of that globalization. And then finally, on the investment side, you're well aware that there's been a financialization of savings. Now, what that means is people have taken money out of fixed deposits, real estate, they've sold the real estate, the market seems to have plateaued, and now they're looking at equities. And then suddenly they see that their portfolio is not optimized because they're very India-centric and they need exposure to the US. At the same time, there's a growing awareness of stocks like Tesla and Uber and so on. So people are saying, hey, just because I'm sitting in India, why can't I invest in those stocks? So all of these are some of the trends that we are seeing which are strongly driving demand for our services. And so we are seeing our wait list grow at about 500 per day. We've already reached 3,000 and we've already opened accounts for 30 people. And not just that, the excitement from those 4,000, 5,000 is just enormous. When we tell them that you can sit in India and you can open a US bank account on your mobile using your Indian passport, you don't need any other documentation, you don't need a US address, and you can be anyone as long as you meet our KYC requirements, who can have a US bank account in 5 minutes with a MasterCard debit card. Now, just think about it. That's a pretty big deal. That anyone in India can have access to a US bank account if they have a legitimate need. So all the B1 people who travel to the US, for example, they used to use Amex cards or overseas credit cards or prepaid cards. Now they can have a US bank account where they put the money and they have a debit card and they can use that. So that's our play, and we are seeing all of the macro trends really support that. And in addition, what we are planning to do is become the first truly global consumer bank. So if you think about HSBC, you think about Standard Chartered, you just spoke about Geo. You think about these large organizations. They're present in different countries, but they're not really global on the consumer side. They're global on the corporate and the commercial side. Citibank in India is very India-centric. Citibank in the US is very US-centric. Just because you have a Citibank India bank account doesn't mean you can get a US Citibank bank account. And it's very frustrating when, Anurag, an affluent person like yourself, let's say you have a need for a credit card in the US. Just because you don't have a FICO score or a credit history, they won't give it to you. I mean, you're probably the best credit, right? At least I'm hoping so.
Clearly you're futuristic and you're catering to certain latent needs the new environment is creating. But let me go to Rohit and Kumar Abhishek at this point. Rohit, again, numbers give you a picture that can give you what will happen in the future. So give us a sense of what is going to happen in the future through some numbers that you see in your business.
Right. So thanks, Anurag. So, as I mentioned earlier, right, when we started out, the key thing that, caught our attention is, right, if you look at the Indian credit pyramid, the fact of the matter is right now, say there are 3 broad segments, right? The top 10%, in fact, it's less than 10% where, most of the banks and large NBFCs are focused on today. And the bottom 35% is where microfinance guys have done a wonderful job. But the biggest chunk, accounting for almost 50% of the population, that's a place where I think not most of the guys are active. And I think it was quite staggering, right? I mean, you look at any macro state, you look at, penetration of unsecured credit cards, or like any, I think debt instruments. That's obviously quite abysmal in India, right? The top 10% actually gets access to 70% of the bank credit. So there's hardly any penetration happening, right? And I think when we went deeper, then we figured it's not that, the guys obviously have found a way to work through it through informal debt and all, right? And India, along with China, is the largest informal debt market in the world. And we thought, like we are sitting in 2020, if we don't formalize it now, I think, when we will. So I think, and also I think along with it, obviously the way ecosystem has evolved, like in terms of smartphone, internet, how government has pushed with UPI and, so many innovative methods, right? I think we thought it's a perfect time. And I think that is something we have seen in numbers, right? So, like initially so we do micro loans, right? We do loans starting from as low as a few thousand bucks going up to say up to 50,000, 60,000 rupees. And this is the credit that I think, like again, if you look at this missing middle segment, right? Their needs, unlike you and me, are actually far more frequent and for a smaller ticket, right? Naturally, because they don't have too much saving cushion, they're much prone to income shocks, right? So they need access to credit every now and then. Like a small shopkeeper might need just say 10,000 rupees to buy, next set of inventory, or a contractor needs 20,000 rupees to pay off his workers and get the next project, or like a delivery boy needs $1,000 just to get money in his bike and get on for the day. So these were the use cases no one was catering to. But obviously the key was where will you get the customers? Will these guys come on smartphones and take this product? And I think I'm happy to say that I think we have seen a really astounding success on that side. So as I said, I think we our app has already seen over 5 million downloads over the last 2 years. In fact, growth has been more exponential in nature, and then we are looking to grow that even faster going forward. So we're looking to I think more than double our customer base in the next 6 months alone. So I think that's going in the right direction. On top of it, as I said, in fact, another I think big learning for us was, and this is not an urban phenomenon. In fact, like until 5 years ago, a lot of startups are focusing on the urban millennial, right? The more tech-savvy segment. But now I think this sort of a growth is very broad-based in nature.
With WhatsApp and with mobile, I think.
So I think people are realizing people are realizing smartphone is not a luxury anymore, right? A small shopkeeper needs smartphone today to accept payments, do business and everything, right? So that's why like over 60-70% of the demand actually comes from tier 3, tier 4 places. And I think that's been a wonderful realization for us, right? So people in all these smaller cities, let alone good customer service, right? They actually strive for access to the right credit.
And they're also aspirational. For them, it is aspirational. So we'll come back to you, but let me bring in Kumar Abhishek. You heard Rohit, you heard Suman, and you heard Sukir. Now, clearly when you listen to their stories and what they're trying to do, clearly you see a revolution in the financial services coming. And for long we've said that we're under-penetrated in stock markets, we are under-penetrated in mutual funds, we're under-penetrated in banking. Maybe in the next 2-3 years, we will be rightly penetrated. Tell us, how is your company contributing to that revolution?
Right. So I think we could very easily analyze it both from a macro and micro, lenses, right? So one good thing to look at would be even if we see the stimulus package which the government released, right? So it very clearly articulated, and I think that was definitely in the right direction. Is that, boss, let's fund the MSMEs. Let's make micro entrepreneurs, right? Now, I have a very good example. So I just happened to, get to a startup. They are into selling of flowers, right? Pushp Valley. Now, what they do, and I was like super. I could not even imagine what this pandemic has also kind of supported on. So they were just selling flowers, right? So they were like an agent for these flowers, right? They used to pick from farmers and then somebody will buy from them and distribute. But now they came up with this idea that every home needs puja ka flower, or maybe they have empty vases and they need some flower.
We're spending more time at home. We're not being able to visit our temples. So clearly, what a simple analysis of a need and building a service around that. Beautiful. That's what Indian entrepreneurs, they're ingenuous and they see opportunities where nobody else sees them. And very Indian issue.
Well, and it is the best thing is that, say, you and I don't consume flowers every day. But now if somebody, right, 7 in the morning, outside your door, puts a flower, will you say no to it? Of course not, right? You'll say, "Arey yaar, aane de kitne hain, 10 rupees." So the market just balloons up now, right? So the people who had a disposable income but didn't have this option, now there's a market which has just got created, right? And this is exactly what is going to happen if we really want our economy from $1 trillion to 5 trillion, right? So if you talk about retail itself, right? So post pandemic, right? Retail and digitalization of retail, if you take that, so e-commerce and all these digital thing was still holding like 14-15% of the entire retail which happens in the country, which means more than 85% is still offline, right? But now all these merchants, right, want to become digital, because what pandemic has made them realize, right, that they have to open these different channels to reach out to their customers. And if they start doing it, right, just imagine what happens, right? The demand also, gradually, if the availability kind of improves, the demand also increases.
I think that sometimes availability creates demand. It's true for many product categories. So, Megha, we may want to take a break now and then come back after the break.
Yes, absolutely. We'll take a short break, come right back. A very insightful conversation, creating demand, creating digital demands, need of the hour, that is going to go ahead and burgeoin and allow for the 5 trillion economy dream that the Prime Minister and the whole country is witnessing at this point of time. Take a short break, come right back. All right, welcome back. We are going ahead and discussing fintech and its increased importance during these times. In fact, it has gone ahead and accelerated its importance, its requirement, its utility in the remotest parts of the country, in the remotest part of the world. But another challenge that the world faces, India also included in that, being of cyber security. It was all right if you're going ahead on your Facebook and your data was being compromised, that's one thing. But when you start indulging in financial transactions online, that's a different ball game altogether. Let's discuss that. Very important issue. Dr. Anurag Bhatta, you've gone ahead and opened up that magazine as well. Cyber security, need of the hour. There are laws that are still being formulated, brainstormed upon. The Parliament is going to go ahead and bring out those laws as well in due course of time. Need of the hour, and what's challenging is that these laws will have to be changed, very, very fast, because those hackers are extremely time efficient. They're way ahead of the regulators.
Thank you, Kriti. Megha, it's a new world. COVID has been a kind of a digital transformator, and it has kind of created acceleration in many areas that possibly would have taken 5 years, 10 years, definitely 3 to 5 years. Now, let me ask all the entrepreneurs on this panel, the last 9 months have in some way given us time to think, reimagine, rewire how we operate, how we think, how we approach entrepreneurship. I want to know your top lockdown lessons. Let me start with Kumar Abhishek. Kumar Abhishek, what are your top lockdown lessons? What has got added to your thinking that will stay with throughout your life and hopefully help you lead a better life and make a better entrepreneur out of you?
Right. So I've been told, and I'm very lucky to have some great advisors with me, right? And a lot of them during my stress time always used to say that, think about now, live in present, right? Don't kind of, make big plans of future and all, right? But also being a CEO running a company, you have to work on certain plans. But what this pandemic has definitely shown is that why living with present is so critical, right? Why fixing those small issues and delivering every day is critical in the success of an organization, right? Why every time, you only look back whether your last week was better than this week or not. Right. So I think although some of these things were told to us, right, but we never realized that we will visually be able to see it and experience it in our lifetime, right? So this pandemic has definitely made all of us realize the importance of living with the present, right? And that has helped. So this has helped us to be frugal, right? So in 8 months, right, we have done certain pivots which was put for 2022, 2023, but everything shifted so fast, right, that all those products, those demands were needed right now, right? And hence I think these two learnings. Number one, stay with the present, focus here, right? And be frugal. The number two is very frugal, right? You have to be frugal in your early days so that the moment you see some opportunity or some demand, you can, shift your focus and, get hold of that.
Beautiful. Rohit, what are your top learned lessons?
Yeah, Rag. So, great thing, as Kumar Abhishek said, right? I think we have all learned to appreciate, life itself, right? Which is something which gets, lost when you're just rushing with things. I think the second biggest thing that I've learned, I think is the value of culture and, I think what United employees can do. Because, it's always there, right? But I think when you...
culture was something you put on a notice board.
Correct, right.
There on your vision statement when you entered the office.
Correct.
It came into play. When you talk of compassion, when you talk of putting people first, when you talk of resilience, when you talk of purpose, I think the last 9 months brought that to the fore. Those values were in action. They were not just something good to put out there. So go on, Rohit.
Right. So, because I can see there are multiple things, right? Because we're a deep tech startup, I think we had say work from home from day zero, right? But still, even for us, I think it's a totally new experience in terms of, how employees can get together and accomplish great things, right? When they work with this mindset. And I think maybe crisis also unites people like nothing else, right? So that also has helped us to rally everyone around a common mission. Like at the beginning, we were figuring, how do we do it? Because it's a new reality for everyone. For us, for employees, everyone, right? And then we thought, like, rather than micromanaging, let's try to empower them, trust them, I think with more things. And I think it showed up in results, right? People automatically started changing their thinking from, more time-based to more goal-based execution. And then that showed up in numbers, right? So now you don't need to chase people, right? They know what their responsibilities are, not just in tech team, but across like even operations and, like even...
I'm more grateful for the fact that they have the jobs and they're contributing to their organization staying afloat in some cases and in some cases thriving.
Correct. So that was there. In fact, obviously now we're living in a more boundary-less world where obviously, I think you might be working on weekends or night and, this is obviously different from earlier, but I think what we have again seen, people are far more happier, right? Because now they can efficiently manage, their work life, which I think has again made a lot of difference. I think it just gives basically more power back to people. So I think that is actually has been one great thing. Secondly, as I said, I think, for the company also now you realize that your culture and your values are far more important, right? So now you're also forced to, I think, execute that in the right manner, make sure, I think, it's transmitted right so that people know, what their role is. How do they want to take this forward, what they're working for. So that's been good. I think there's one more thing which I think has helped the industry as a whole, right? Because fintech lending is in general not a very old industry. Like I would say last 5-6 years have been there, right? And because lending market always move in cycles, so there is always this question, right? Whether does it have a long-term sustainability? Is it just a convenience play? Is it a long-term play, right?
And is there a sustainability? Because funding money can make customer acquisition a reality, but will the customer stay? Once you're not doing your services at a loss? Is there a deep value that you provide to your customers beyond just some price offs and some basic convenience? So let's go to Suman. Suman, what are your top lockdown lessons?
So I think I will say I'm used to it because this is my third startup. I started my first one in 2008, the American economic crisis. The second one I started in 2011, the European, real estate and the banking crisis. Every time I was in Europe for the last 15 years, and this time I started it's the pandemic. So I think I'm used to this thing, and also, but this thing, it's a totally different thing. I think it's pandemic.
You wait for these moments to happen, or is it, or they will happen, and you kind of stand back? Of course, go on, Suman.
It just happened. It just happened. But we always came out victoriously of all this. And this pandemic and this crisis is totally different for us. We launched our product we have very good number of 1,000 users, and we already innovated, and we went from 0 to 12 to team during this crisis. And the one thing I learned in this crisis is that you have to you have to take care of your people, because I know how hard it was for people to work during stressful, and our team, they really work really hard to bring this product out, which they fit in, and what I learned: take care of your team, take care of your people, and be strong and get things done. That's what I learned during this pandemic.
Okay, Sukir, clearly you heard your fellow panelists share their top lockdown lessons and what has changed in them during the pandemic. Give us your top lockdown lessons.
I think a lot of the themes are quite similar. I will say that the pace of change, in 1 year, behaviors have changed. The way people work has changed. The way people shop has changed. So the pace of change really enforces the fact that agility and the ability to very quickly innovate is going to be the differentiator going forward. Now, that's a big aha, even though it seems very trite, because then you start thinking about how should my organization be, what kind of people do I need, and what do I need to do to make sure I'm constantly innovating and I'm constantly staying ahead of whatever is thrown at me. And that's going to be the difference. And I think Suman said it, others said it. That's going to be the difference between the established banks, for example, or the established financial services companies, for whom any change takes 2 to 3 years. They're stuck in their branches, they're stuck in their old ways of doing things. And so the realization is this is actually a big opportunity, and let's do it. Let's go and grab the opportunity. But then on the flip side, it's a huge human tragedy, and we can't look at everything in terms of the economy and consumer behavior. And so having that empathy, I think, puts things in perspective as well. What's the worst that can happen? There are people who are losing their lives. So I think you get a little philosophical, and I think that's all to the good, given that we are all probably type A people, very driven, very, very driven. So I think it's given us that kind of base, which makes us better leaders and better entrepreneurs.
Okay, Sukir, you're right. It puts things in perspective. We're grateful for what we have. The joie de vivre for life goes up. Just the joy of being alive and breathing every day, and not taking everything that we have for granted. What matters is that we have gratitude. And you're right, sometimes we sit back and we are able to reflect on what we really want to do, what our purpose is. We spend a lot of our time planning what should happen in our businesses. And as first generation entrepreneurs, we are driven and we think about our businesses day in, day out. But maybe it's time to think about families. It's time to think about people around you, the communities. Now, we're talking 35 days before the union budget. The finance minister has promised the country a budget like never before. So you are from the financial services domain, you built companies before. I would like to know your expectations from the budget and the finance minister. Let me start this time again with Kumar Abhishek. What are your expectations from the finance minister?
So definitely, more money in the pockets of consumers, right? I think why? So that they can drive the expenses further, right? So I think that is very critical. A lot of people have lost their job, right? A lot of them kind of finding ways to create more jobs, right? And for all of them, more money to spend would be critical, right? So that is number one. Number two is that we are sitting at a huge opportunity, right, to deliver or sell global products right from the country, right? Be it software-related products or hardware-related products. And I think the finance minister should support product building from this country, in this budget, right? These two things I think would be very critical, and this is the right time to do these two things.
Okay, Rohit, what are your expectations from the finance minister?
Yeah, so I think on the demand side, I would agree. I think they should focus on boosting jobs, boosting, manufacturing, employment. getting more money in the hands of people so that they can spend and the demand is back to the market. I think on the supply side, I believe, while I think government has done a tremendous job in terms of injecting more liquidity in the system, offering collateral-free loans to the stressed sectors, and I think making, in general, I think trying to get credit more available. I think transmission is something which can still work in a better way, right? So can they actually maybe open more supply taps for say the smaller NBFCs and fintechs, who are actually serving this niche, of mass market underserved, unbanked folks, and can we get more supply side pressures opening up for them so that they are able to meet the demand, in line with the financial inclusion goals that I think we want to drive. So that's something I think that will be really great.
Okay, Suman, your expectations from the finance minister and the budget.
I think because of this pandemic, everybody, most of the small and medium enterprises, they can be online or offline. I would say more offline will suffer a lot. I think putting money in this merchants, putting money in this offline business, which will because entrepreneurship is the only way to increase jobs. And most of these people who suffer, whether it can be FMGC or whether it can be hotel. Restaurants and hotels, and which have really suffered a lot. I think that's where
I think government should now do sectoral interventions and try and revive the industries that have suffered on the demand side because of the nature of the industry. The employment in those sectors may have suffered. Go on, Suman.
Yeah, I think it should be more vertical focus, injection of money into the community, into the people. So there will be more jobs, and people who left their jobs and who who went back to their hometowns and suffering, they can revive their life and get their jobs. And that is what I'm expecting. Along with not just about that, it's also on the digital and banking side. I think there should be more, after the Make in India, Atmanirbhar and everything. I think there should be much more push on the digital side, which is happening, and I'm expecting a bit more on that side. And that's what I'm expecting from the budget.
Okay, so Keith, your expectations on the budget.
Clearly the stimulus has been a very positive step. I think the balance has to be, not to be just reactive in the short term, but the longer term objectives have to be kept in mind, which is infrastructure, small business, and broadening the consumer base. Right. And by infrastructure, I don't necessarily mean ports and roads. We realize that broadband access should be there everywhere because kids can't study at
broadband are the new roads. Broadband,
exactly.
You got to go to a school, you need broadband. You got to visit the cinema, you need broadband. You want to go to office, you need broadband. I don't think, I think telecom companies have kept us going in the last 8 months. So clearly broadband is the single biggest need for all of us. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, whether you're a student, whether you're a housewife, wanting to do basic chores, or you're wanting to attend office, or you're an entrepreneur. So clearly, yes, broadband is very, very important. Go on.
When you consider the fact that, we are sitting in the cities, right? If you go into the hinterland, they don't even have, basic internet access, forget about broadband.
You're saying
so I think infrastructure
focus through the budget on bridging the digital divide. The education in government schools, there was a paucity of devices, there was a paucity of access. You're saying broadband should be the number one priority in terms of creating digital access, because that will create access to services and grow the economy. That's the point.
Absolutely.
Keith is making.
Absolutely. And the second point is small business. All innovation comes from small business. Innovation doesn't come from the large companies. Scale comes from the large companies, but innovation comes from the small businesses. So the government should make sure that, they are setting up the right funding mechanisms. It should be within the market. It shouldn't be dole-outs, but also that they're cutting red tape for small businesses. I think that is going to be critical because we are seeing Indians are very entrepreneurial, right? And so we are seeing all of these small businesses grow, and that's where innovation is going to come from. That's where the next big Facebook is going to come from. A small business that will become big if the government gets it right. And third is on the consumer front. I mean, the Indian consumer is very resilient, but you can only take the consumer for granted, so much. And so particularly at the bottom of the pyramid, I would say, the government does need to still have policies and not mimic some of the more developed economies about trickle down. They need to have more direct intervention. And when they do that, that will broaden the base and accelerate growth. and because there's this huge swath at the bottom that we often ignore. We talk about the middle class, and we don't talk enough about this huge swath who can be consumers, self-sufficient consumers who can be a big source of growth for the economy. And the government should really focus on them.
Good. Megha, I'd like to know from you, both as a citizen of the country and somebody who's in the media business and understands what's happening around in the environment, what are your expectations from the budget, from the finance minister?
I think yes, being in the media and being specifically in the news business, budget is going to be a big day for us, for the entire community and the entire country. A lot of those tranches that have been given, the subsidies that have been given by the government, by the finance ministry, be the agriculture sector, be the MSME sector, perhaps that's an indication, that's an expectation that the entrepreneurs are saying. Like one of our panelists, Kumar Abhishek, said that, consumers need to be given that cash, that money, so that it gets cycled back into the economy. That's going to be, so that's the focus, of course. Digital push for sure. I think space and tech is something that the government, we already are doing it. Prime Minister has been going ahead and announcing a number of these addresses, number of attending and doing those inaugurations. ISRO is going in a private. I think there's funding that needs to go there as well, and that would be the expectation, and that's the hope over there, because that's the future at the end of the day. STEM education, something India must focus on categorically, and that's one budget focus that the finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman must ensure is put in her red bag.
Megha, if I had to put my expectation from the budget, I'd put these 6 things out. One, as you and Sukeet rightly said, Sukeet called it broadband, but as you rightly said, a push for a bigger digital economy.
Yeah.
Tools and announcements and measures that will bridge the digital divide. Second is, there is an expectation that the government distributes the vaccine free to every Indian.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
an expectation, and it might as well get fulfilled. We don't know, but there is a good chance that it may get fulfilled. At least that's an expectation when you talk to a lot of people on the ground. Third is massive public spending in infrastructure. Fourth is, I don't know, it's right, wrong, is maybe income tax going away finally. I mean, it's a very radical reform, but you can do, government of Narendra Modi, you can expect radical reforms. Fifth is clearly, as Suman and Sukeet rightly said, sectoral intervention in sectors that have been in some way left out because the government didn't want to get created there because they're contact kind of industries. And last but not the least, if you look at the budgets that this government has done, there have been all budgets that have aimed at social inclusion, and there and I keep saying that we have to compliment the government, that the government has made sure that food was sent to everyone's home. There's no social unrest. We don't give credit to the government for that. We only look at if the economy hasn't grown by that much. It's important because economy does create livelihoods. That's one way to help everyone achieve their dreams and in some way also keep them engaged. So clearly these are the expectations I expect from the budget. And I want to ask and then close the panel, when does each of our panelists think the economy will be back in full bloom? 6 months, 12 months or 18 months? Let me start with Sukeet. Sukeet, when do you think the economy will be back in full bloom?
I'm thinking 12 months.
And why do you qualify your answer? Why are you saying that?
Well, by the time the vaccine is rolled out, by the time it becomes widely available, it's going to be 9 months. It's going to be 9 months in the US as well. And that is going to be the critical factor for the economy to boom again. Having said that, economic activity has already picked up, as you said. But then, the bar for the Indian economy is so high now that it'll take about 12 months to get back to it.
Okay, Suman, your prognosis and prediction on when the economy will be back in full bloom?
I think it's already on its way. It's growing. Economic is getting better when comparing to the last 6 months. When comparing to the last 6 months, it's really getting better. But I think I'll put it by August in 6 to 12 months. I think it will be in full bloom. like Pete mentioned, the vaccine, the news of vaccine, whether you're getting vaccinated or not, but the news of vaccine will really, push that there is vaccine, we are going to get better and everything is going
The fear factor will go away.
Fear factor will
You
go
know that, even if we get infected, we're immune or we get cured. Rohit, when do you see the economy coming back in full bloom and why?
You're right. So I think it will take 6 to 12 months. Like I believe some sectors are obviously, I think, like they face significant headwinds and they might take longer. But other than that, like if you see the economic indicators are picking up, especially if you look at smaller cities, right? I think people have learned how to navigate despite all the problems, right? So I think the mobility has actually almost come back to normal in most of tier 3, tier 4 cities, right? So that's also picking up well. I think, in fact, now I think we are even better ready than earlier, right? Because the whole digital push and how everyone is so comfortable with it. See a swift recovery going forward. So I think barring a few sectors, I think in 6 to 12 months, and obviously it will coincide a bit with the, the confidence around vaccine. But I think 6 to 12 months, we should see, going back to pre-COVID.
Thank you so much. Final word from you, Kumar Abhishek.
Yeah, I'm seeing optimism all around, right? I think with the break of the news of vaccine availability, I think we will start seeing, at least in the financial services, we'll start seeing, back to, pre-COVID numbers. So I'll say like 6 months. But yeah, if you talk about, the aspirations which we, get into this decade, right? I think 18 months would be the right thing to say because of this huge aspiration with which this country is now aiming to become one of the leaders globally, right? Those momentum you'll start seeing in 18 months.
Clearly, we're looking at the finance minister playing Santa Claus, maybe the prime minister playing Santa Claus. So Merry Christmas to you. We're doing this show on the eve of Christmas, and we wish you luck in your endeavors. Back to you, Megha Sharma.
All right, thank you, Anurag, and all the panelists who have joined me today, enlightening us about all there is to finance tech, the challenges that you've gone ahead and conquered. And tomorrow again, 6 p.m, stay tuned because it is going to be NewsX and Business World Atmanirbhar program with another set of panelists, another set of gung-ho entrepreneurs and startup venture capitalists as well. So here's to tomorrow, here's to new beginnings, and of course, we'll take a short break at this point of time.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.